Welcome in, everybody, to this Jays Digest live stream. I'm your host, Peter Vryonis. Doing this one solo today. Nick is going to be back tomorrow, but thank you guys for joining. I'm going to let a few people trickle in here. We're going to be talking about the game that we saw today. Pittsburgh Pirates, Toronto Blue Jays. Big-time series win for the Jays. They needed a bounce back after yesterday's tough game, and they got it. So it's good to see. Good to see the boys are back in the win column there. I'm going to wait for a few more people to come in here, but while we do that, just take a look at today's box score. That was the offense. They stepped it up a little bit today, the Toronto Blue Jays did, so shout out to them. Saw a pretty good game out of Davis Schneider. Danny Jansen chipped in. Varsho as well had one of his best games of the season. It's just a big win for the Blue Jays. They needed this. They really did need this, hence the title. The Blue Jays needed this. Guys, make sure to comment as well your thoughts on today's game, how you all think it went. I was a fan. I was a fan of what I saw today. Trade Bichette, please. Okay, Kevin, I'm glad you brought this up. I'm really glad you brought this up, okay? Now, I don't know if I'm ready to just trade him away just yet. However, I will say this. I hated what I saw out of Bo today. And it's not just his play, okay? It's not just his play in the field, his play in the batter's box. What I saw today from Bo Bichette was a guy who was dejected and did not care about his team. Those are the signs that I've been seeing from Bo Bichette in the past few weeks here. Even when things go well for him, yeah, he looks like he's done with this team. And I couldn't agree more with you, Kevin. Like, Daniel Vogelbach hit an RBI double that cashed in 2 runs and gave the Blue Jays the lead. They were up 4-3, and Bo Bichette is sitting at the top step of the dugout, putting his head down, pissed off, sulking. I hate that. Dude, you're supposed to be a leader on this team, a guy who has been struggling all year long but is stuck with it and is reaping the benefits right now. Daniel Vogelbach struggled the entire season before his latest stretch of games now. Now he's in the lineup every day because he's been a crucial element in that lineup. So Vogelbach was a guy that was struggling. It didn't change the way that he was acting on the bench. He could have gotten 3 at-bats in 2 weeks. He was still the guy pepping everybody up, smiling, making sure that everyone was on the same page. That's the kind of guy that Danny Burgers is. Bo Bichette is struggling. We know this. He's not having a Bo Bichette-like season. Danny Vogelbach drives in 2 runs, gives your team the lead when you need wins. That's the most important thing right now. It's not getting your OPS over 700. It's picking up wins. And what does he do? He's got his head down like this at the top step of the dugout. He's pissed off because he's in a rut at the plate. What the hell is going on with Bo Bichette? I've never seen him like this. He's always been kind of a guy that keeps to himself, quiet guy, never too eccentric, but he's starting to show some frustration right now, and he is not being a leader whatsoever. I wouldn't even say he's being a good leader. He's being a terrible leader, and I don't even know if the Blue Jays want him in that position necessarily, but he's tasked with it. And he fails to deliver time and time again. Ryan saying the attitude is exactly why we are not in a playoff. We are not a playoff team. A bunch of individuals. I agree with you. But where does that start with, Ryan? That starts with your best players at the top. And I don't think that's the attitude of the group overall. I think there are a lot of selfless players on this team. But I watch Bo Bichette go to work on a nightly basis, and it's me, I, all the time. Every single time. If things don't go his way, he's going to pout and whine and sulk like a baby. And I hate that. I can't stand it. It's a reason why I'm not a huge fan of him as a player, and it's a reason why I wouldn't be devastated if they were to trade him. I know Vladdy has had his struggles. He's had his fair share of boneheaded plays. But at the same time, he rides for his guys all the time, and he's always smiling and having fun. Bo looks miserable out there, and I don't know why. Maybe something else is going on with him that I'm not privy to. That's entirely possible. But at the same time, man, you got to figure that out. You got to figure that out. This cannot be happening. 100%. I think everyone is with trading Bo and signing Vladdy at this point. I don't know. I've seen different discourse online. Obviously, everyone has a right to their opinion, and everyone is entitled to their opinion. I don't know. It's hard to say that I've seen a definitive lopsided opinion amongst the fan base. But the way that Vladdy has played and the way that he's matured as a player this year, I'm definitely in the camp of keeping him long term if the number is right. It's hard to say, though. It's hard to say. Like, we don't know. We don't know what the team is thinking at this point, right? But with Bo Bichette, and I'm really glad that Kevin brought it up to start off this live stream, I've not been happy with what I've been seeing out of him. It's sad, but there isn't a good shortstop to trade him forwards. It's not about that, Tim. It's not about that. It's about the culture, the team culture. And if you trade Bo, you're probably not going to get anybody as good as him in return. I think we got to come to accept that. But what you can do is get controllable assets. You can get guys that have potential to be as good as Bo Bichette. I don't think he's a superstar in my mind. He's a little bit overvalued in the market that we're in. I think a lot of people overvalue what Bo Bichette does on the baseball field. He's a good hitter, not a great hitter. We get wowed by his hit totals, but I don't think he's an elite player in the game. He's a very good player, but he's not elite. Bring up Martinez and move Ike up to shortstop, trade him for a bat. That's definitely an option. I don't know if you guys checked out the video that Nick and I did the other day about the potential trade between the Giants and the Blue Jays. This was a package that I've seen floated around a couple of times. It was, who was it again? It was Marco Luciano, shortstop of the San Francisco Giants, and Wisenhunt. Might have been Ben Wisenhunt. I'm not sure what his first name was, but he's a lefty, number 3 prospect in the Giants system, and Luciano is the number 1 prospect in the Giants system. That trade I would do in a heartbeat for Bo Bichette. I would. And it's not because of his play. Like I said, it's his attitude. It's the fact that he seems like he just doesn't want to be a part of this team on a nightly basis. And that's the most concerning thing for me. He's supposed to be their best player. He's supposed to be at least their best. Yeah, Carson was not. Sorry about that. He's supposed to be their best hitter and their best offensive player. He's probably been their 7th best offensive player this year. And there's a pretty big gap between 6 or 7. It hasn't been good, and it's not encouraging either. Only downside with trading Bichette now is his value is down. If the season is over, why trade him now? And I'll give a rebuttal to that, JG. I don't think his value is low because he's been one of the more consistent performers in the league over the past 3-4 years. I think his value is actually higher right now because you're getting more out of Bo Bichette. You're getting him for at least a year and a half if you trade for him now. Whereas if you trade for him in the offseason, you only have him for 1 year, and then beyond that, you don't really know it because he's a pretty unpredictable personality. But he also has control for next year. Yeah, exactly. Exactly, Ryan. So I don't think his value is at an all-time low right now. I actually think it's relatively high to the way that he's been performing. So I'm not against trading Bo Bichette. I think it's definitely a conversation that needs to be had. And I know that Ross Atkins came out and said, we're not going to do it. We're not going to trade him. We're not going to trade Vladdy. But if a team calls, you better answer the phone and you better do your due diligence because you don't know how this team is going to look in 2 years' time, and you don't know if those players are going to be around in 2 years' time. I'm sure they've had those internal conversations. I'm sure they know where Vladdy is at in terms of contract negotiations, where he wants to be, etc., etc. And I'm sure they've had those conversations with Bo Bichette as well. So if you don't think it's going to happen, if you don't think you're going to be able to keep those players, then you got to have those conversations. I think we need to get a controllable catcher back for Bo, especially if Jansen gets traded or leaves in the off season. That's an interesting take, Oliver. Definitely an interesting take. So yeah, I guess the Kirk train is out the window now. I guess we've all hopped off the Kirk train. Trade Bichette to Baltimore for Jackson Holliday and Kobe Mayo. Now that is one trade that would never happen. I would do it if I'm the Blue Jays, but the Orioles would laugh and hang up the phone on you. So it's unfortunate, but they have a lot of prospect capital and the Blue Jays don't, and they don't look like a contending team this year, which is a reason why I'm bringing up these conversations. It's a reason why we need to have these conversations if we're the Blue Jays front office. We're not going to compete this year. Even though we won 5 out of our last 6 games, we're not going to compete this year. I think that's out the window. We're pretty much fighting for the last wild card spot, and we're not even 80 games into the season. So that's where the team is at right now. So you got to have these internal conversations, and I'm sure that they are. But it's definitely not easy to have because they sacrificed a lot for this core. They've put a lot of money into this core, and they're trying to sell it to the fan base. But the fan base's patience is wearing thin. It is. And it sucks that I'm taking the negative angle after today's victory and the result that we saw today. But that's just what I saw. What I saw out of Bo Bichette today was the biggest takeaway for me. The guy's just checked out. He doesn't want to be there. And I don't know what's going on in his personal life. I have no idea. But at the same time, like you got to figure something out here if you're the Jays front office and if you're Bichette. Cut Biggio and trade Kirk. You don't have to cut Biggio. He has options. You can send him down, and I think that's the best thing that the Blue Jays can do right now because he's not performing and he's just dead weight in that lineup. And you got to call up Spencer Horwitz. Do you still think we trade Kikuchi if the Manoah news is bad? I mean, I've seen a couple of things on trading Kikuchi, but I don't think it's going to happen. I think he wants to be here, and I think he's someone that the Blue Jays should hold on to because there's a bit of uncertainty in that rotation. Maybe Bichette, Kikuchi, Barriera for Jordan Lawler or Carson Williams or Brooks Lee. Where are the Arizona Diamondbacks in the standings right now? That's what I'm curious to see. I don't think they're doing too hot. Do I like Vladdy at third base? He looked okay today. Has a very strong arm. We know that, but footwork a little bit wonky on that first play that he made. I didn't mind it, though. Look, at this point, if you're the Blue Jays, you need to have the best hitting lineup out there on a nightly basis. And if that means Vladdy at third base, Justin Turner at first, and Vogelbach DHing, then I guess you're going to have to do it. I guess that's the only option you have, right? And 1 through 9, I really liked their lineup today. I thought it was good. Speaking on that, let's take a look at the box score today. So Davis Schneider, really strong game at the top of the lineup, even though he struggled to start out. Started out 0 for 2, but then came up with a couple of huge hits. Jansen, another couple of hits for him. He's been on fire all season long. Vladdy chipped in as well. Hit a bit of a rough patch lately after his real hot stretch of play, but I'm sure he'll figure it out. Bo is again the one that stands out to me. Just looked lifeless out there, looked disinterested. Vogelbach has been one of the best hitters on this team lately, and where would they be without him? Where would they be without him? That's one question that I did not think we would be asking ourselves at this point of the season, but here we are. Justin Turner continues to struggle. Springer, he's been okay in that 7 spot. Varsho, I thought, had one of his best games of the season, and then IKF continues to just chip away at the bottom of the lineup. He's been really good, having great at-bats, and just a true out-and-out pro. I was skeptical of the signing of Isaiah Kiner-Falefa in the offseason. I was honestly questioning it. I'm like, what's the strategy here if I'm Ross Atkins? Why are we trying to sign this guy to a 2-year deal when we could have got someone else for cheaper that could do the same thing? But he's been arguably one of their best players and been one of their most important players as well. So shout out to IKF, man. He's been really good. Trade Springer and get some of that money. He has been fleecing. It's not that easy to do. Peter, did you see IKF being a great teammate and gave Bo some support? I like that he was being a supportive teammate. I mean, it's good that IKF has really honed into a leadership role. But again, that should not be happening if you're Bo. Why are you sulking in the dugout? Why are you pissed off after your teammate just hit a 2 RBI double and gave you the lead for the first time in the game? Why are you thinking about your personal stats and your personal success if your team is desperate for wins and you're in line to get one right now? I love the leadership of IKF. I hate the body language of Bo Bichette. I wish we could get someone, we could get Moreno back somehow. He's been terrible this year. Dalton Varsho has been by far the best player of that trade in the early portion of this season. Jansen stays healthy. Dude is going to get paid end of the year by someone. Maybe by the Blue Jays. I don't think they're closing that door, especially with the lack of catcher depth that they have. Jansen is solid. Kirk not so much. Trade Kirk and sign Jansen. Now, why would they trade Alejandro Kirk? Why would they do that? You still need a backup catcher. And if Jansen could stay healthy, Kirk is a fantastic backup catcher, especially defensively. There's not many great hitting catchers in Major League Baseball right now. Okay, so I don't think that it would be smart to trade Alejandro Kirk. I know he hasn't been hitting and he's not good on the base pass. He's one of the worst base runners in the league. But why would you trade a backup catcher who's going to get you virtually nothing in a trade that won't help your team? It doesn't make sense. That doesn't make sense to me. Do you think Atkins should be fired? I think he should, yes. Someone's got to go. Someone's got to go after this terrible start to the season. So, yeah, I think he should. And I think someone else should be brought in to make the moves that need to be made for this organization. Danny should have started the season on third as an everyday player. Kirk is a great catcher. Dev has been stunted by a poor coaching staff. Development has been stunted by a poor coaching staff. Saying the offense, Kirk can't hit. Yeah, but he's a backup catcher, Rick. He's a backup catcher. You need 2 catchers on your team. He's not making a lot of money. He's a very good defensive catcher. I don't understand the discourse here in trading Alejandro Kirk. It doesn't make sense to me. Should have traded Vlad 2 seasons ago. Not enough return on the money he's getting. Again, for what exactly? What are you going to trade Vlad for? That would help your team as much as he's helping them right now. I get that we're frustrated. I get that we're angry with the way that they're playing. But we got to be smart about this as well. You can't just trade everybody because you're pissed off at the team. You need players. You need players in your lineup. We can't trade 6 players and then expect to field a competitive team. What are we talking about here? What are we talking about here? Now, I understand the frustration with Bo. I'm on the camp of trading Bo Bichette. But that's it. Can't trade Kikuchi, Jansen, Kirk, and everybody. Who's going to come up and play after that? Who's going to play? Who's going to play if you have 19 players on your team? You call up... yes, they are in the luxury. They might be slightly in there. Ross should have been fired a while ago. Peter, have you heard of a prospect on the Jays named Luis Meza? Emmanuel Bonilla, yes. Not Meza. I haven't. What? Let me look him up. Luis Meza. Luis Meza, catcher. Catcher, interesting. Yeah, he's having a good season. Not much power to speak of, but yeah, he is having a good season in rookie ball with the Blue Jays. I don't even think we need to be trading everyone. Ross and John need to go, strand them in the U.S. and don't let them across the border. It's a little drastic, but it might work. It might work. Yeah, I just checked him out, Henry. Just checked him out. I mean, he's very young, so it's hard to gauge. Having a good year though this season in rookie ball with the Jays. Look, everybody, I understand the frustration. I really do. But we got to be smart. We got to be smart about this. Now I'm going to ask you guys a poll. And I want to get some answers here. So let me know. All right. So the poll is live right now. Should be able to go answer that. So the poll right now, 50-50. 50-50. 11 votes. $11 votes. 14 votes now. It's getting a lot of votes here. We definitely are. Realistically, who do you see the Jays trading by the deadline? Who do I see the Jays trading by the deadline realistically? That's a tough one to answer. Who do I see? Hard to trust a guy who's out of shape at all times of the year. Every year we hear Vlad is in shape. Looks like a milk bag. I mean, he's a big guy. He's a big guy. He is in shape. And he's been running really well. Recorded his second fastest time from first to home today on that double by Vogelbach. I understand what you're saying, Jake. Look at Kirk compared to Moreno, but you're not getting a player like Dalton Varsho by trading Alejandro Kirk. You're not. And Varsho has vastly outperformed Gabriel Moreno since the trade, okay? Now, I know that the Diamondbacks made the World Series. I know that he was a big-time performer in the playoffs. But you can't define a trade based off of one season, based off of one postseason, okay? I think that trade has worked out nicely for the Jays. Varsho has been one of their best players this year. I don't know where they would be without him. Realistically, they will not trade anyone. There's no return worth it. We don't know that, but it depends where they are at the deadline. So if they're out of it at the deadline, then I could definitely see them trading Kikuchi, Jimmy Garcia, but I don't suspect them to trade one of the core players, even though I would like for it to happen. I don't know. I don't know if that's something that they're thinking about. It's a very interesting conversation to have, though. It's something that needs to be had if you're the Blue Jays. Because you can't just keep teetering on this line of, are we in the playoff race? Are we out of it? Like, you gotta make a decision. Either go for it, which I don't think they should do because they don't have the prospect capital to push all their chips in the middle of the table, or you sell off very valuable assets that are expiring. You're right about Varsho, but I think long-term Moreno could have been a staple for 10 years. I think Varsho can too. He's the best, arguably the best defender in baseball, not just outfielders. So I think Varsho can too. And Kirk and Jansen are miles better than Moreno defensively. Do you want Atkins making trades? I don't. I believe the whole problem comes with how the roster was built. Should have had more speed and hustle on the bases, not fat and slow. The pitching staff needs strategic support on the bases. Jays should trade Biggio and see what you can get for him because Bo and Vladdy not going anywhere. What can you realistically get for Biggio? He's one of the worst players in baseball. He's a replacement level player. What exactly are you going to get in exchange for a replacement level player that is most likely on his way out of the big leagues? Yeah, Moreno has a very strong arm, but Kirk is one of the best framers in the game, and Jansen is a great game caller, one of the best hitting catchers in the game. That tandem, those two are better than Moreno is by himself. How did Guerrero do at third today? He did well. I thought he did well. He looked pretty good. Obviously, we know he's got a very strong arm, but the footwork on the first play that he made was a little bit weird. I didn't love the footwork that I saw from him, but he showed great poise, great footwork on that spin throw that he made up the middle, like where he was shifting more towards shortstop. I liked his play today. I really did at third base. I thought he looked comfortable, and I mentioned it earlier in the live stream that, look, you know, you got to get the best hitters in there. You got to get the best hitters in there no matter what. If you have to sacrifice defense to get Vogelbach, Turner, and Vladdy in the lineup, then you do it. And it didn't cost them today on the defensive end. So I think it was fine. I think we're going to see that a lot more going forward. Vladdy at third base. And I wouldn't mind it. I really wouldn't mind it. Yeah, I do think he'll get a lot more run there. Now, I'm not sure how much, but probably a couple of times a week. The Leafs and Jays are the same. High expectations, but never live up to it. I think that's because of the market that we live in, or that we're fans of, you know. The Jays need a shake-up. Atkins and Snyder will be a good start. I don't think firing John Schneider is the answer. I don't think he's a great manager, but I don't believe that managers make a huge difference either. As much of a difference as we think that they do. So I don't know if Schneider is necessarily the one to go, but I definitely think Ross Atkins should be next in line. If there was someone to be fired, it should be Ross Atkins. No doubt in my mind. I don't want to be compared to the sad Leaf fans. I'm not a Leaf fan. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan. I'm from Montreal, so I don't have to go through that suffering. But the Habs haven't really been much better. Yes, go Oilers. I'm big on the Oilers in the playoffs. I really want a Canadian team to do it. I want them to end the drought, and the Oilers are super fun to watch. I think it would be great for the NHL if Connor McDavid was in the final. But yes, I don't know how many trades are going to be made by the Jays this year, if any. I wouldn't be shocked if they stand pat either. They've been known to do that, so I wouldn't be shocked. Living in Edmonton here, the city is live. I bet it is. Looks like a lot of fun, especially their arena. Looks like it's a blast in there. I don't know if you guys saw those Twitter videos circulating with people having a pretty good time in there. I guess that's all I could say on that front. Shapiro is a part of the problem too with Atkins. Yeah, that's his guy. He's very loyal to him. So is it crazy to say that a rebuilding Raptors team is going to win another championship before the Jays and Leafs? I don't know about that. Raptors have a long way to go before they're back in contention. But I hope they do win again. That would be very cool. I don't think the Jays are that far off, but they just didn't make the right moves this offseason. They didn't. I'm not saying to go for a full-on rebuild, but what I am saying is maybe you should retool and try to extend this window. Yeah. RJ Barrett has that dog in him. He does. I really like that trade for the Raptors, getting Quickly and Barrett for OG. Now let's see what they do with some of those first-round picks that they got. No top 6 pick, unfortunately, for them this year, because that's going to the Spurs. But our Habs were the last to do it. Yeah. Peter, I think Buck Showalter is the perfect coach for the Jays if they want to move on from Schneider. I don't know. I don't know how receptive that young locker room would be to Buck Showalter. Ideally, who would you have as field manager of the Jays? Not Don Mattingly, I'll tell you that much, but I think Don Mattingly contributed to the downfall of this team, and I'm going to die on that hill. He was a terrible manager in Miami. He had one of the worst records ever. He was terrible in LA with all that talent that he had. Don't know why the Jays felt the need to bring in Don Mattingly. That I will never understand. So that sucks. That totally sucks. That Don Mattingly was tasked with this group. And he hasn't run them into the ground, but he's made them into a contact-hitting team as their offensive coordinator. They don't hit home runs anymore. His whole mantra is, you got to get balls in play. You got to go the other way. Now, that's my thing with managers who were great players back in the day. Don Mattingly, great player, terrible manager. Because great players expect you to be able to do the things that they were able to do as players. And not everyone can hit 300 or 330 in a season, go the other way, and hit 30 home runs. Like, Don Mattingly was a special player. He's a terrible manager because he expects the players that are home run hitters to be able to do the same things that he did on the field with regularity. So, I think Don Mattingly is a huge problem with this team. But I digress. I think it's a conversation for another day. I'm going to end this poll here. Pretty split here. So 55% no, 44% yes on trading Bill Bichette. That's interesting. I'm more on the yes train, but I could see why people don't want to get rid of him. KK has been good so far. Mr. Guaranteed out. Springer, however. What's up, Peter? Go Jays. Go Jays. How's it going, Jason? Thank you for joining. Shout out to the almost 80 people in here. Make sure to hit the like button as well on this live stream. Push it out to some more Jays fans that want to voice their frustrations or voice their pleasure with 5 wins in the last 6 games. It's up to you guys. But yeah, hit that like button. Make sure to subscribe as well if you aren't already. And shout out to almost 90 people in here. We peaked at about 100, but it's been a pretty good stream thus far. Thank you guys for joining. I'm going to be live for a little bit longer here. If you're wondering where Nick is, he's going to be back tomorrow for a video, so don't worry about that. But I just want to get on here and chat about what I saw today. And I started off this live stream just talking a little bit of crap about Bichette. And for good reason. For good reason. He's been... he's had a terrible attitude all season long. All season long. At least KK is only here for one more year, Michael. So I think after this year, though, they're definitely going to move on from him. And I don't know if another team is going to take a shot on him. Fire the hitting coach. Which one? They have like 52 different hitting coaches. Which one do you fire, Steve? I'd start with Don Mattingly. He's a big part of this problem. Oh, one of the big disasters in Blue Jays history, bringing in Don Mattingly and making him the offensive coordinator. That's been a total disaster from the start. So frustrating. So frustrating. And what makes it even more frustrating is that it's like he doesn't even know who these players are. We're not a home run hitting team. We don't hit home runs. Oh yeah, this is only the team that had one of the best offenses in the last decade. But you come in here and apparently they're not an offensive team anymore. They got to scratch, claw, and fight for every run, for every base hit that they get. You know how hard it is to string together 4 or 5 hits in the major leagues? It's extremely hard. Incredibly hard. But Don Mattingly, that's his philosophy. That's his philosophy. Oh, let's string together 5 hits against a guy that's throwing 99 miles an hour. It's just terrible, terrible, terrible philosophy all around. Get rid of Bo. He doesn't want to be here. Let's get a good package for him, hopefully. Yep, Don is old school. Yeah, old school doesn't work anymore. You got to hit home runs and you got to drive the ball out of the ballpark or hit doubles. And this team does neither of that. So you got to figure something out on that front. Get rid of Bo. He doesn't want to be here. Let's get a good package for him. I'm going to revisit that. I'm just wondering what the Blue Jays can get. At the start of the season, you were quite optimistic and excited about this team, remember? Without any real changes. What has changed for your opinion to have soured so much? Now, the reason why I was so optimistic heading into the season was because of the great things that we saw last year. The starting pitching and the bullpen. Okay? They were some of the best groups in Major League Baseball. The starting pitching was top 5 without Alek Manoah being a competent starting pitcher. And the bullpen was fantastic. Unbelievable bullpen last year. But now the starting pitching has sort of remained the same. They've still been good. And the bullpen has done a full 180. They've become the worst in baseball. So I was optimistic because I expected a bounce back year from Vladdy. I expected a bounce back year from George Springer, especially considering the way that they were hitting in spring training and the way that they slimmed down and all the talk about this has to be it. This has to be the time. And they just didn't do it. So I've soured because I've seen enough. I've seen enough to give a fair assessment this year. Now, you got to let the games play out. There's no doubt about it, okay? It's baseball. It's 162 games. Anything can happen. But I've seen a lot of games now. I've seen them go to work on a nightly basis, and it just hasn't gotten better. It hasn't gotten better, so I think that's the reason why I've soured so much. Springer is past his prime. I've come to that conclusion now. I was willing to give him a shot coming into the season, but his bat speed is no longer there. He's not pulling the ball. He's not driving the ball. He doesn't look like George Springer anymore, and I guess we were expecting that to happen sooner rather than later, but not this soon. And they got another 2 years of his contract, maybe even 3 years at $25 million per. It's gonna age really poorly. It already has. So yeah, it hasn't been good. The offense has been lifeless. The bullpen has been terrible, and they're not getting any better. So I think that's where I'm at with this team right now. That's why my opinion has soured. Atkins is a big part of this too. Adding a 40-year-old third baseman / GH. Springer's the highest paid J. Yeah, he is. He is the highest paid J. Yeah, Justin Turner has not been good after the first month of the season, and I don't know what they're going to do with him. And adding basically peanuts. Yep. It's been a rough season. There's no way to dance around that fact. It's been a really bad season for them. I hear you and agree 100%. Much appreciated. Thank you, Peter. Thanks, Michael, and thank you for the question. And I appreciate you calling me out because I was optimistic to start the season. And I guess that's the fan in me talking, right? That's the fan in me saying this year is going to be different. We've seen how high the ceiling of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is. We've seen how high the ceiling of Bichette is and George Springer, et cetera, et cetera. So why can't they get back to that? They're still very young players. They're still very talented, and they're nowhere near that ceiling. So I guess that's where the frustration is stemming from. I expected different. I guess I'm the fool for sipping the Kool-Aid all off season long, but my job is to keep you guys entertained and keep you guys wanting to come back. And I also didn't want to toot the negative horn in the offseason either. I didn't want to be that guy to say the season is over. This is not going to end well for them. I didn't want to be that guy in the offseason. I wanted to let some of the games play out a few months into the season and then come to a full-gone conclusion of this team. And I think that's where I'm at right now. I'm at peace with it. I'm at peace that the Blue Jays are not a contender. And I don't know what has to change for them to become that. I don't know if it's a retool. I don't know if it's anything else, but it just hasn't worked out for them. So that's where I'm at. That's where I'm at with this team. And it sucks. It totally sucks. There's no other way around that. If you guys have any more questions, make sure to ask them right now. I'm gonna wrap up pretty soon. So it's been a pretty good stream. We peaked at around 100 viewers. Thanks to each and every one of you for your support, being in here and venting your frustrations. Even though the Jays went out and won 5 out of their last 6 games, maybe they were expecting more from management in the offseason. I mean, who was expecting more? The team? Is Vlad a line drive hitter that slugged his home runs in a small park, now earning too much for his production? I don't think so. I think something's changed with him, and he's a different player. He's definitely a different player than he was a couple of years ago, and I think we all know what kind of player he is now. It might have been an anomaly. How do you think the Baltimore series will go? I think they win 1 out of 4 games, if I'm being truthful with you guys. I'd be surprised if they won more than that. I would be. But you still got to play the games. You still got to play the games and allow for these things to play themselves out. So I'm not gonna say that they'll get swept, but I wouldn't be shocked if they do, and I wouldn't be shocked if they only win 1 game out of the 4. That's what I think. Clean sweep, it's possible. It's definitely possible. Guys, make sure to hit the like button as well. Subscribe if you aren't already. Be making daily content for you guys. So really appreciate it if you guys could go ahead and do that. But yeah, guys, where are you at? Where are you at with this team? And I'll ask one more, not a poll, but just a question in general. Do you guys think that this team can make the playoffs? Simple as that. Can they make the playoffs? At least we aren't the White Sox. Well, the White Sox have one of the lowest payrolls in baseball, so I would hope not. I would hope that they're not the White Sox. That's for sure. Are there any chances that the Blue Jays make the playoffs? Answer yes or no in the comment section. I'm going to go out on a limb and say no. No. All right. Can they make the wild card? I don't think so, Jordan. I don't think so. Still hoping the D in pitching needs speed on the bases. No shot at a playoff spot. Yeah, I think it's going to be an overwhelming answer. 0% from Jason. 0%. I wouldn't go 0%, but it's definitely not. They'll finish last in the division. Well, maybe not. 1%, no. I just don't know what the trigger will be for these changes that need to happen. I think if they're way out of it at the deadline, then that'll be the trigger right there. I think that'll be the trigger. They need to be really far. What role does Mattingly play in the hitting going to hot garbage? He's the offensive coordinator. He's the hitting coach. He's the guy that is tasked with strategy and how you approach at-bats in the box. He has everything to do with it. And it's no coincidence that the minute that he got there last year, the offense turned to crap. It's no coincidence. And I'm going to go out and die on that hill, like I said before. He expects the players to be able to do the same things that he did as a player. And you just can't do that. You can't do that. Yeah, that was the worst, man, Chase. That was the worst, because that was one of the best offensive teams that I've ever seen in my life. Not just Blue Jays, just in general. And that was their chance. It was the opposite. The bullpen couldn't get the job done, and the offense was fantastic. It was the total opposite of the team that we saw last year, at least. You know what hurts me is that Varsho trade for Moreno and Gurriel. Why? Why exactly does that hurt? Varsho's having a much better year than both of them combined. I understand that the Diamondbacks went to the World Series, but why does that hurt exactly? We can't blame Varsho for the way that he's played this year. He's been arguably their best player. We still won that trade, unfortunately. I don't know if it's a definitive win. I don't know if we could say that just yet because it's still early. But losing those two at the time sucked. Yeah, it did. Because Gurriel was a fan favorite, and Moreno was on his way to being a big-time catcher. Unfortunately, they decided to go in another direction. I think the team needed Dalton Varsho, and that's proving itself to be true this year. He's been really good. He has been really good. Coaching staff has to go. Yep. At least the offensive coaching staff needs to go. Baron Revere hitting sounded like car crashes. I like Ben Revere as a player. Very underrated. Can the Jays bring back Dante Bichette? Don't know if they want to do that. I guess I'm just big on Moreno. Well, okay, let's look at Moreno's stats for this year. He's got one home run. He's batting .229. Kirk's been a better player than Gabriel Moreno this year. Kirk has been a better player than Gabriel Moreno this year. And I know that he's an intriguing player. He's got speed at the catcher position. He's got a cannon of an arm. But he has not been good this year. He was good last season. He was very good in the playoffs. But we can't just take that small sample size and say that he's a better player than Dalton Varsho. Because he isn't. And Gurriel is not even close to the player that Varsho is. Can't just look at the batting averages and go off of that. Varsho brings so much to the table. He's their best base runner. He's their best fielder. So I understand the frustration with losing Moreno, a guy who had so much control and was on his way to being a starting catcher for a long time. But Varsho is a player that they needed, and he's performed up to that level, at least this season. But that's going to wrap it up for this stream, guys. I appreciate all the love that we got here. Make sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button, and tune in for more Daily Jays content. Nick and I are going to be pumping that out for you guys every day. So make sure to do that. And thank you guys. Thank you guys for all the support. Do you think that management learned anything by not trading EE before letting him walk for nothing? Maybe, but we'll see. Can the Jays retool instead of a total teardown? I think that's the best course of action. Retooling and not going for a full-on rebuild. If Ross goes, does that mean his flawed analytics group will go too? No. Analytics are a part of the game. They're a big part of the game, and they're not going anywhere. They're essential to the way that baseball is played right now. But I think overanalyzing things and taking the feel out of the game, that I don't like. Like what we saw in last year's playoff game against the Minnesota Twins, where they took out Berríos after 3 innings, and he looked unhittable. So I don't think analytics are the end-all be-all, but they're definitely important in the game today. And if someone else comes and replaces Ross Atkins as the GM, they're going to have their own analytical spin on things. So I don't think they're going anywhere. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Ned, Trevor. Appreciate it, guys. We'll catch you guys again soon with another live stream. Make sure to stay tuned for that. But thank you guys so much for joining. Appreciate it. And we'll see you all soon, probably in tomorrow's video. Take care, guys.